Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PSE Stock Market 101 webinar. We hope you're warm and comfortable wherever you are, so let's get the ball rolling. Let's start our learning session this afternoon. Now, first, I want to ask you, why do you want to learn about investing, particularly investing in the Philippine stock market? Now, if I ask you that, I'm sure we'd get different reasons, various reasons. Like for some of you, it's probably because you have goals and dreams for your families. Or for some of us, probably some of you, you have kids and you're preparing for your kids' education. Perhaps for many of us, we want to go and travel, see the world. Simply put, we have this ideal lifestyle in mind, and what we want to do is to be able to achieve, or if we already have it, to be able to maintain that chosen lifestyle. And probably for many of us, this early, we're already starting to think about retirement. Now, if you have those goals and dreams in mind, what do we typically do? We prepare for those things. So our savings might look something like this. We have a portion allotted for education or further education, holiday, home improvement, wedding, new car, and eventually for our retirement. Now, when we have savings, what do we do? What do you usually do with them? If you are the very traditional kind, probably you hide it under your pillow or under your bed, or you put it in a bank. Now, I have a question. If I have 100 pesos, I want to put it in a bank, come back to it after a year, how much will my money grow? How much are bank interests these days? So let's say it's at 1%. Now, if I have 100 pesos, I put it in a bank, come back to it after a year, my 100 pesos would grow into 101. Less the 20 centavo tax, that will leave you with 100 pesos and 80 centavos, right? So the thing with bank interest is that they are quite low, if not very, very low. Plus, there is this other thing that makes the value of our money less and less each time. You call that your inflation. So what does inflation do to our money? If your burger before looked something like this, now, for the same amount of, say, 49 or 59 pesos, it will only give you this. Now, that's inflation. So, inflation, actually, it does hurt our savings. Now, a lot of people probably think that when they are saving, they're already investing. These two are actually quite different concepts. When you are saving, you are merely setting aside a portion of your money, whereas when you are investing, you are making your money work for you. So these days, it's not enough that you just save. So what we need to do is actually to save and invest in order to grow our money. And the stock market is just one of the many options available to you. So this afternoon, we're going to learn all about the basics of stock market investing. So we're going to start with the what, when, where, how, and why of stock market investing. All right, so what are stocks? Stocks are actually just shares of ownership in a company. So if that's quite abstract for you, just think of companies as huge pizzas. Now, pizzas, they have slices. Just think of one slice to be one stock, and that slice or that one stock is equal to your share of the company. Now, how did stocks become tradable in the stock market? So it starts when a company that's looking to expand would like to raise capital. So what's the option for the company? So it could take out a loan from a bank, but the thing with having a loan is that you have to pay the interest every month plus you have to give back the principal by the end of a certain period. The other option available for companies who are looking to expand is to give up a portion of their ownership in that company and sell them to investors. Now, that activity is called an initial public offering, or IPO. So your initial public offering, or IPO, is when the company is selling its shares to the public or to investors for the very first time. Now, that transaction is said to occur in the primary market because investors are buying the shares directly from the company. Now, an IPO period usually lasts a week, or it may be extended up to 2 weeks. Now, if you, the investor, missed the IPO period, you could no longer buy the shares directly from the company. So what's the option for you? The option for you is to buy those shares from existing investors. And you could do that in what we call the secondary market or the stock market. So at the stock market, investors buy from or sell to their fellow investors. All right? Now, if you hold stocks or if you own stocks or shares, you get to be called a stockholder or shareholder of that company. You are one of the many owners of that company. So as one of the owners, you are entitled to the earnings of that company. Now, the company may share its earnings to its stockholders or shareholders in the form of dividends. We'll discuss dividends more later. Also, because you're one of the owners, of course, you get to have a say as to the direction that that company may take. You will be represented by the number of shares that you own. So in annual stockholders meeting or in the gathering of all the stockholders or shareholders of that company, you could vote on issues raised by the company. So if you are for or against a certain issue, you could express your vote. Now, in the Philippine Stock Exchange, there are 263 companies whose shares are available for buying and selling. Now, it would be quite tedious to monitor each of the performance of these companies. So we have something that would serve as a barometer for all the listed companies, and you call that an index. An index is an indicator of the overall performance of the stock market. So out of the 263 companies, the Philippine Stock Exchange's main index is the PSEI, or the PSEI is composed of 30 of the biggest and most traded companies in the market. There are also those which are called by analysts as blue chips. Now, many of these companies are actually already familiar with you. Let's read some of them. You have here your AEV, your Aboitiz Equity Ventures, your Ali, your Ayala Land Inc., Bloomberry, Bloomberry Resorts Corporation, First Gen Corporation, your FGen, Globe is GLO, you have your Jollibee there as JSC, Meralco, MER, PCOR, your Petron Corporation, PLDT is TEL, San Miguel Corporation is SMC, your SM Investments Corporation is SM, and Universal Urbina Corporation is URC. Now, analysts usually watch out for the performance of the PSEI. They watch out for the trends. Is the PSEI is in an upward or downward trend? And we use stock market icons to describe those trends. So when the PSEI is in an upward trend, we say that the market is a bull market or bullish. Why? Because when the bull attacks, the horns of the bull are going up. And when the PSEI is in a downward trend, we say that the market is a bear market or bearish. Because when the bear attacks, the paws of the bear are in a downward direction. Alright, so when should you start investing? We just have here a simulation wherein we compared a person who started investing at 25 versus 35 and 45 years old. So let's say that individual's annual investment is 60,000 pesos, has invested for a period of 10 years. Total investment by the end of that period would have been 600,000 pesos. Now, if that person would like to retire at 65 years old, this table just tells you that you would naturally get a bigger amount if you start early as compared to starting late. And here we're assuming that the investment is growing by an average of 10% a year. And as you would know, stocks listed at the PSE, they have different performance compared to all other stocks. They have unique performance. So they may grow by more than 10% or by less than 10% a year. In a single trading day, the price of a stock may go as high as plus 50% and may only go as low as minus 50%. So if the previous day's price is 100 pesos, today it would only go as high as 150 and as low as 50 pesos. Stocks are among those instruments wherein there is relatively higher risk because there's also a relatively higher reward. Just remember your risk-reward principle. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. The lower the risk, the lower the reward. So the key here really is to know your appetite for risk. And your brokers are there to help you identify your risk profile. And accordingly, they will guide you in your investment decisions. So let's just to give you an idea, the PSEI, in a period of 10 years, the PSEI is growing by 14.8% on the average. So if you've already started investing in the previous years, you're able to take advantage of the returns offered to you by the stock market. So the best time really to invest, they say, was yesterday, and the second best time to invest is now. Now, if you want to buy and sell shares, where would you go? Of course, the stock market is a place where stocks are bought and sold. It's actually quite simple. The stock market is just like any other market. So when you shop for goods, you shop for commodities. Same with the stock market, is just like shopping, except here you are shopping for companies. You're shopping for listed companies. Now, just to share with you a brief history of the Philippine Stock Exchange, there used to be two stock exchanges. First was the Manila Stock Exchange, or MSE, in 1927. Then came 1963, the MKSE, or Makati Stock Exchange. Now, in 1992, President Fidel V. Ramos unified these two stock exchanges, and born out of that unification is your PSE, or the Philippine Stock Exchange. Now, introducing PSE, we are not a government institution, although we know that some people are confused because of the Philippine on our name, but the government arm that regulates the stock market is your SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, the SEC just needs help in regulating the market. That's why they granted us this SRO status. SRO stands for Self-Regulatory Organization. It allows us to formulate our own rules and regulations and implement them to our stock market participants. So if we see any broker, investor, or listed company that's violating our rules, we could penalize them. We're also a publicly listed company, so you could buy and sell PSE shares. Our code is the same, it's PSE. Our mandate is to ensure a fair, efficient, transparent, and orderly market for the buying and selling of securities. Probably just to give you an idea of what the PSE is like, just think of us as SM. So SM has different stores that they rent out. So we're like SM. Those who are renting the spaces are stockbrokers or stock brokerage firms, and they're selling the same products or same commodities. So all the shares of the 263 companies. Now let's take a look. Before this advancement in technology, how was trading like? Let's do a flashback. So this is how they trade in the past. You have the brokers, the guys on the trading floor. What do? They receive orders coming from their clients. That's why some of them or many of them are on the phone. Back then, when they receive a buying or selling order, they would have to shout that buying or selling order to the guys assigned in front of this long blackboard. Those guys are called your boardmen. So at that time, trading was quite inefficient, quite disorderly. So fast forward to today, wherein the PSE has a trading engine that could facilitate thousands and thousands of transactions. This is how it's like here at the PSE Ayala trading floor. The long blackboard was replaced by this fairly modern EDB or electronic display board. So those columns of information are actually the same information that you would find on business sections of newspapers. Let's try to read that. We call that in newspapers your quotation report. So it starts with the first column. That's the symbol or the code of that listed company. After the code or the symbol, you have the prices. You'll see there the bid price and the asking price. What did they tell you about the stock market? Is just like any other market. So in a market, you have your buyers and sellers. Now imagine you are a fruit stand, you're selling mangoes for 80 pesos. That selling price, 80 pesos, in the market is called an asking price. Now if there are buyers willing to buy your mangoes, but not willing to buy it at 80 pesos, your price, they could make a bid. So they could bid for, let's say, 70 or 75 pesos. Now, if you agreed at that buyer's price of 75 pesos, it is then that a transaction would happen. You would give your mangoes or the goods to the buyer in exchange would give you his or her money. That price, 75 in the market, is what we call an LTP or last traded price. It is where the buyer and the seller last agreed. Or it's also the price of the recently concluded transaction. Or, in other words, it is the current market value of that particular stock. That's your LTP or last traded price. Now we have two more columns that contain prices. You have your high price and your low price. Our trading system just gets the highest price transaction and the lowest price transaction for the day. So that's your high and low. After the prices, you have the volume or the quantity or the number of shares traded for that particular stock. If you multiply the price and your volume, you'll get the peso amount of the transaction or the value. Again, the value is the peso amount of the transaction, and it's derived by multiplying the price and the volume. Okay, so if you want to start buying and selling, at what times are we open? We're open every day except holidays and weekends. We start accepting your buying and selling orders 9 in the morning. 9:30, we start matching your orders. So if you posted a buying order, our trading system will look for a seller that's willing to accept your buying order. Or if you posted a selling order, our trading system will look for a buyer that's willing to accept your selling order. So there's continuous matching of the orders from 9:30 until 12. 12 to 1:30, we pause for a break. And again, there's continuous matching of the orders from 1:30 until we close the market at 3:30 in the afternoon. If you want more information about the Philippine Stock Exchange, you'll find them in newspapers, or if you watch ANC, they feature us almost every hour. The PSE library is also open to the public. Those of you who are based in NCR may visit our PSE library. It's located at the 27th floor of the PSE Ayala. You also have our two websites. Our main website is pse.com.ph. Our dedicated market education website is pseacademy.com.ph. If you're the mobile kind, you could like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We have our official social media accounts, so you'd be updated about the latest happenings in the PSE. And this one is very important for investors. Our online disclosure system, which we call the PSE Edge, it stands for Electronic Disclosure Generation Technology. So it is through this that the companies share their announcements, or what we call disclosures, to their stockholders or shareholders. So if Jollibee, for example, declared dividends, they would give an announcement or issue a disclosure through PSE Edge. Okay, hope you're still there. We're on the earning part, the kaching part of this whole thing. How do you earn from the stock market? Two ways. First, through dividends. As I mentioned, dividends are the company's way of sharing its earnings to its stockholders or shareholders. They may do so in three forms, either through cash, stock, or property.
Now, cash dividend. Now, this sounds like a bit of a review. Cash dividend is when the company would give you free money. So, for example, Jollibee declared 10 pesos cash dividend. So, if you hold 100 shares of Jollibee, the amount of check that you will get would be 100 shares times 10 pesos. If it's stock dividend, they'd give you free shares. So if you hold 100 shares of Jollibee and they declared 20% stock dividend, you'll get 20 additional shares. So instead of holding 100, you now have 120 Jollibee shares. Property dividend is not when Jollibee would give you free chickens. It's not that. Property dividend is when Jollibee, for example, has a share in, let's call it Company A non-listed company. Jollibee may give out Company A shares to its Jollibee shareholders. That's property dividend. Okay, and the second way to earn from the stock market is through price appreciation or capital appreciation. It is when you were able to buy at a lower price and sell at a higher price. Or when you bought it at a high price, then you sell higher. Okay, so if you want to start right away, want to start investing, what do you need to do? First step, you need to open an account with a stockbroker, a PSE accredited stockbroker. There are two types. You could go for either the traditional ones or the online ones. So for traditional brokers, if you open an account with them, every time you want to buy or sell, you need to call your guy. So call the person who's handling your account and give him or her your buying and selling order. So they will encode or input your order in the trading terminal, and it will get it'll be transmitted to the trading engine of the Philippine Stock Exchange. Whereas if you open an account with an online broker, they'll give you a username and password. So after that, it's like eBay. You log into it using your username and password, and you yourself could input your buying or selling order. So again, with traditional brokers, they do it for you. For online brokers, you could do it yourself. Consequently, for online brokers, they charge lesser commission compared to the traditional ones because they don't need to hire a lot of people to entertain calls from their clients. But both broker types, so traditional and online ones, they give you advice or recommendations. They're actually the only guys who are allowed to do that. They're the only guys allowed to give you advice and recommendations on what stocks to buy or sell during a particular period. So in the Philippine Stock Exchange, there are 132 PSE accredited stock brokerage firms. 19 of them have online services, and the rest are what we call the traditional brokers. So if you want to open your trading account, go through the list of our PSE accredited brokers by visiting our website. That's pse.com.ph. On the left-hand side, click Trading Participants. Your brokers are also called trading participants. And after you click that, it will give you the full list of our PSE accredited brokers. Here are our online brokers. There are 19 of them. So you have there AB Capital Online, Abacus Online, PhilStocks PH, Angping Online, BA Securities Inc., BPI Trade, Coherco Trade, COL Financial, DA Market Securities, 2Trade Asia, First Metro Securities, Investors Online, Make Trade, Optimum Online, RCBC Easy Trade, Regina Capital, Timson Trade, U-Trade Securities, and WealthSec Inc. Those are our 19 online brokers. For the full directory, just click on the directory tab. It will give you the full list of the 132 PSE accredited brokers. Alright, so once you have an account, you can start buying and selling or giving your buying and selling orders. How do you do that? We have here our board lot table just to provide organization in the buying and selling orders. So don't be intimidated. There's no need to memorize any of these. We just want to help you understand the things that you may see on the user interface of your online brokers. But for those of you with traditional brokers, just give them the name of the stock. They already memorized by heart the board lot table. So let's have an example, or let's try to read our board lot table first. The lot size column there gives you the minimum number of shares that you're required to buy or sell for a particular stock. Again, your lot size will guide you as to the minimum number of shares that you're allowed to buy or sell, that you're required to buy or sell for a particular stock. The tick size will guide you as to the minimum price movement. Alright, let's have an example. For example, FMETF, you saw that the price was 114 pesos and 50 centavos. First step, you need to locate in which price range does that price fall. So 114.5 falls in between 100 and 199.90. So for FMETF, you are required to buy or sell at least 10 shares. If you want to buy more or sell more, you need to do so by that increment also. So 10, 20, 30, and so on. Now for the price, if you do not like the price of 114 pesos and 50 centavos, you could post your own price. You may add or subtract 0.10 from the price. Remember, your tick size will guide you as to the minimum price movement or the minimum fluctuation. Let's have another example. PLDT. For example, the price of PLDT is 2,370 pesos. Again, first step is to locate where in the price range that price falls. So 2,370 pesos falls in between 2,000 and 4,998. So for PLDT, you need to buy at least 5 shares. If you want to buy more, do that. You may do that by this increment also. So 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. If you do not like the price, that's 2,370, you could post your own price. You may add or subtract 2 pesos from the price. Okay, I hope you're still good. Let's have a sample order posting. Let's take as an example fictional stock ABC. So you see here the bid and ask, or the buying and selling orders for stock ABC. Let's try to read them. For the bid side, someone's willing to buy 300 shares at 13 pesos, 500 shares at 11 pesos, 2,000 shares at 10 pesos. So take note, for the buying side, our system determines the best bid. That's why the prices are sorted in descending order. And the best bid is at the top, and that's 13 pesos. For the selling side, or the asking side, someone's willing to sell 700 shares at 14 pesos, 200 shares at 16, and 50 shares at 19. As you may notice, for the selling side, the prices are sorted in ascending order, and the system determines the best selling price. That's the lowest selling price. So in this case, it's 14 pesos. So recap, best bid is 13 pesos, and best asking price is 14 pesos. Now, let's say you're the investor and you want to buy 1,000 shares at 15 pesos. Where will your order go? Take note, you're buying, and you also have the best buying price. So your order will be on top. Okay, so you have the best bid, that's 15 pesos. Now, all orders actually have the following suffix, buy me or sell me at this price or better. So in your case, you're actually telling the system to buy me at 15 pesos, or if you find a better price, then buy me at that price. So in this case, is there a better price? Yes, there is. You could buy the stock at 14 pesos. But take note, you want to buy 1,000. The supply is only 700. So the system will match you first with that number of shares. So done trade is 700 shares at 14 pesos. You have an outstanding buying order of 300 shares at 15 pesos. Now take a look. You want to buy it at 15 pesos, but sellers are now asking for much higher price. Someone's willing to sell only at 16 pesos, and the other one is willing to sell only at 19 pesos. So in this case, there'd be no more matching of the orders because the buyer and the seller are not agreeing at one price. What you could do, if you really want to buy those shares, you could adjust your bid, adjust your buying price, say change it from 15 to 16 in order to meet the price of the seller. Or you could wait for the seller to lower his or her asking price. So if the seller would really need or would really like to sell today, and he'd say, I'm willing to lower my asking price from 16, I'll change it to 15 in order to meet the price of the buyer. So if that happens, there would be again matching of the orders, and 200 shares would be matched. You will now, after that, you'll now only have 100 shares outstanding buying order. All right, stay with me once. Oh, here, take a look. Orders are matched at the best price possible. So take note of that. All your buying and selling orders are matched by our trading system at the best price possible. Now, once you've bought your shares, of course, you need to pay for them. You need to settle within T+3 or trading day plus 3 days. But it's very typical for our brokers to ask us or to ask you to first fund your account before they allow you to make purchases. But really, the settlement period is T+3 or trading day plus 3 days. Okay, so when settling your transactions, what are the fees and costs that you will incur? You have there your broker's commission, that's regulated. Minimum is 0.25%, maximum is 1.5%. Online brokers, as I've mentioned, they tend to charge the minimum commission rate, that's 0.25%. Traditional ones, anywhere in between that range. PSE, we earn from every transaction, so we charge 0.005%. SCCP fee. SCCP stands for Securities Clearing Corporation of the Philippines. If you're buying, they're the guys who get the shares from the seller and give it to you through your stockbroker. So they charge a fee of 0.01% for every transaction. And there's the stock transaction tax, which only applies to selling transactions. That's 0.5%. So basically, everything is the same except when selling, where there's an added tax. Now let's have a sample computation. For example, you're buying 1,000 shares at 5 pesos. The initial value of your transaction is 5,000 pesos. But we still need to add to that the broker's commission and other fees. Here, we are assuming that your broker charged you the maximum rate of 1.5%. But again, if you go with the online brokers, they charge 0.25%, usually 0.25%. So in this case, if your broker charged you the maximum rate, broker will get 84 pesos, PSE will get 25 centavos, and SCCP, the guys who get the shares from the seller and give it to you through your broker, they'll get 50 centavos. So when buying 1,000 shares at 5 pesos, instead of paying 5,000, you'll need to add 84 pesos and 75 centavos. Okay, so for selling, for example, you want to sell your 1,000 shares and you saw that the price went up at 6 pesos. You want to sell 1,000 shares. The initial proceeds that you would get would have been 6,000, but we still need to subtract from that your broker's commission and other fees. We're still assuming here that your broker charged you the maximum rate of 1.5%. Broker will get 100 pesos and 80 centavos. PSE will get 30 centavos. SCCP, or the guys who will get the cash from the buyer and give it to you, they'll get 60 centavos. And the tax that's only applicable to selling transactions, that's 30 pesos. So when selling your 1,000 shares at 6 pesos, instead of getting 6,000, you'll get a slightly smaller amount, that's 5,868 pesos and 30 centavos. Alright, let's have a recap. How do you start investing in the Philippine Stock Exchange? First, you need to open an account with a stockbroker, whether that broker is traditional or online. Second, once you have an account with your broker, you can start buying or selling, or give your buying and selling orders. Third step, once you've bought your shares, you need to pay for them within T+3 or trading day plus 3 days. Or if you've sold your shares, they must be delivered or ready for transfer to the new owner within T+3 or trading day plus 3 days. 3 very easy steps actually, so you can start investing at the Philippine stock market. Okay, we're on the last leg. Why would you invest in stocks? First, the very obvious reason is for wealth generation. We've discussed this earlier. In order for us to increase our earnings, to prepare for the things or to finance the things that we want and need in life. Second reason, for some of us, they're attracted to the liquidity offered by the stock market. Liquidity, in very simple terms, is actually relatively when you're able to buy or sell your shares quickly. So if you want to buy anytime, you'd be able to do so. If you want to sell anytime, you'd be able to do so. Okay, so as opposed to, let's say, putting all your money in real estate or properties, by the time that you decide to sell, it might not be that easy to find a buyer that's willing to buy your property. So in the stock market, as long as we're open, you're free to buy and sell anytime. And the third feature is for ownership of big businesses. Now, if we have extra cash, some of us might think of setting up their own business. Now, that's a really good option, really good idea. But the thing with setting up your own business is there are a lot of things that you need to think about. First, or among them, would be what kind of business. So, could I be into a restaurant business, something like this? Or what kind of business should I be into? Among the other things that you need to think about would be competition. Will my business survive? Or do I have the right person, the expert managers, in order for my business to be sustainable? And last, for how many years? For many, many years. Okay, you could do that. It's a very good option, actually. These are very good choices. Or for some of us who are looking for convenience, you could just piggyback in the successes of existing companies. Okay, so through the stock market, you could own shares of different businesses. You could diversify, and you could become owners of these huge companies. Alright, so those are just 3 of the many reasons why people would like to invest in the stock market: for wealth generation, liquidity, and ownership of big businesses. Now we've covered this, the what, when, where, how, and why of stock market investing. Our message actually is really very simple. Start saving and investing, and hopefully you take advantage of the returns offered to you by the stock market.